Let's see. Tape, boxes, packing paper, shipping labels. Looks like it's all here. Amazon's got nothing on this packaging station. Actually, if you really want a top-tier example of a factory with the world's best packaging station, we should look inwards. To the Golgi Apparatus, of course. The Golgi Apparatus is one of our coolest organelles, functioning as a factory and packaging station alongside the endoplasmic reticulum. A ton of different things happen inside the Golgi Apparatus. It receives proteins from the endoplasmic reticulum, it processes the proteins, and sorts them according to their destination. Move over, Jeff Bezos, there's a new pro in town. Now that you've gotten the Cole's notes about what the Golgi Apparatus is and what it's capable of, let's dive into some more detail. If you think back to grade school, you might remember your biology teacher describing the Golgi apparatus as pita-shaped membranes. And that's not far off, though admittedly it's a bit more complex than a pita. The Golgi apparatus is a membrane-bound organelle found in eukaryotic cells and is composed of flat, stacked pouches, or pitas, called cisternae. The cisternae are usually stacked in groups of 4 to 8, but can have up to 60 stacks in single-celled organisms. These cisternae stick together with matrix proteins, and the Golgi apparatus as a whole organelle is supported by cytoplasmic microtubules. Now, the Golgi apparatus might just look like a blob of pouches. And although this is sort of true, no offense, Golgi, the cisternae can actually be divided into approximately 3 different components and 2 different networks. The components are named based on their proximity to the endoplasmic reticulum because, remember, the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus work together. The 3 components of the Golgi apparatus are the cis face, trans face, and medial section. Cis is the face closest to the endoplasmic reticulum, trans is the face farthest from the endoplasmic reticulum, and the medial section is, well, the middle. Keep in mind that sometimes the Golgi can have more than 3 components. Sometimes extra regions are tacked onto either side too. There is also a small membrane called the endoplasmic reticulum Golgi intermediate compartment, or ERGIC. The ERGIC is, you guessed it, in between the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus, and helps facilitate transport between the 2 organelles. The 2 Golgi networks are similarly named to the components, the cis Golgi network and the trans Golgi network. The cis and trans networks match up with the cis and trans faces in terms of being close or far from the endoplasmic reticulum, but are actually composed of multiple cisternae instead of just one face like the components are. So the cis Golgi network is the cluster of cisternae closest to the endoplasmic reticulum, or the cis-most cisternae, and the trans-Golgi network is the cluster farthest away, or trans-most cisternae. Makes total sense, right? Now, before we get into the Golgi function, we've got 2 more important structures to look at, the first being the lumen. The lumen is the inner open spaces of the cisternae. Sort of like an inner pita pocket, if you will. The Golgi lumen has important enzymes within it that help modify proteins for transport, which we'll talk about more in the next section. And the last piece of the structure of the Golgi we need to talk about, the vesicles. The Golgi apparatus deals with 2 types of vesicles. Incoming vesicles from the endoplasmic reticulum and secretory vesicles that leave the Golgi after being processed. Vesicles are quite literally named. They are vesicles that carry the important lipids, proteins, and other cargo necessary for cells to process and our bodies to use. So we're all on the same page about the apparatus anatomy. Time to dive into what the heck this beta blob actually does. Before we learn what the Golgi apparatus does, we need the world's briefest endoplasmic reticulum crash course. Because the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi work really closely together. The endoplasmic reticulum is part of our cell's Amazon factory. It synthesizes big molecules like lipids and proteins that are necessary for cell survival and function. When these molecules come out of the endoplasmic reticulum in the form of vesicles, they head straight into the Golgi apparatus to be processed for the body. Now enter the Golgi apparatus. This organelle may look like a stack of pitas, but it has an incredibly important function in our bodies. Though arguably, pitas are also incredibly important and delicious, but I digress. In a nutshell, the Golgi apparatus is responsible for transporting, modifying, and packaging proteins and lipids into vesicles for transport to their respective destinations. Complex polysaccharides are also created in the Golgi apparatus. Okay, so the Golgi packages proteins, lipids, and polysaccharides neatly inside vesicles, but where do the vesicles go? Great question. Once the cargo proteins are given from the endoplasmic reticulum to the Golgi apparatus, the new vesicles make their way to the lysosomes, the plasma membrane, or in some cases secreted right outside to the cell surface. But we'll talk more about this later. Talk about express shipping, right? So what have we learned up to this point? First, the Golgi apparatus has 3 components and 2 networks, as well as vesicles and a lumen. Second, the Golgi apparatus, with support from the endoplasmic reticulum, is responsible for synthesizing polysaccharides, as well as packaging and transporting proteins and lipids. Great! Now it's time to figure out how this actually happens. As we learned earlier, the endoplasmic reticulum is responsible for synthesizing molecules like lipids and proteins. Once a protein or lipid is made, it leaves the endoplasmic reticulum as a vesicle cluster, travels through the cytoplasm, and using the ERGIC, travels to be processed by the Golgi apparatus. Vesicles from the endoplasmic reticulum enter by the Golgi cis face, delivering the vesicle contents into the lumen to be processed. The vesicle contents make their way from the cis pole to the trans pole, being modified by different lumen enzymes along the way. The way the proteins and lipids are modified varies between molecules. Some modifications cause the cleavage of oligosaccharide side chains to replace them with different sugars, and some modifications add fatty acids or phosphate groups to the molecule. As the molecules are modified, they move through the Golgi apparatus before finally reaching the trans pole. In the trans component, the molecules are sorted based on their destination, packaged into vesicles, and prepared for departure to their respective locations. In the biological community, there is much debate on how exactly lipids and proteins move within the Golgi apparatus from cis to trans phase. The currently accepted model is called the cisternal maturation model, and it suggests that the enzymes located in the cisterna's lumen change over time while the cargo proteins are inside the cisternae. This model also suggests that the cisternae themselves move from the cis to the trans phase of the Golgi, housing the proteins as passengers. However, as more evidence of the process emerges, don't be surprised if the model changes in your lifetime. Once the molecules reach the trans phase of the Golgi apparatus, the proteins, lipids, and polysaccharides are shipped off to their final destinations. In their respective vesicles, the proteins follow a specific pathway of regulated secretion, leaving the Golgi apparatus and heading to their new homes. Bon voyage! The Golgi apparatus may look like a stack of delicious pitas, but in reality it's so much more than that. This complex packaging and shipping factory helps our body's most important molecules reach their destinations in ways that only Amazon Prime can rival. Thanks for sticking around to learn more about the Golgi apparatus. Click on the next video to continue learning more about the Golgi apparatus, partner in crime, the endoplasmic reticulum. Like the video if you want to see more of these on my channel, and subscribe if you don't want to miss the next upload. I will see you next time.